I just finished building my own dream garden. I can't wait to take you inside. Let me just put this bed in place first, okay? So this summer, my family and I moved to the Nashville, Tennessee area, and for the first time, I got to set up my own dream garden just the way I want it. So today, I want to show you what we've put together so far, how the garden's doing, and the major fails I've had. So let's go inside. Just a little FYI, we bought this house sight unseen. Market was crazy trying to get into Nashville back in the spring of 2022. We were literally grasping for straws to find a home for myself, my husband, our 4 kids, and 2 dogs, and a partridge and a pear tree. Finally landed on this house, but we didn't know what the backyard was gonna look like. And turns out we have 2 huge trees on the side of the home, and then we have this massive wooded area behind our yard. Just for context, behind me is south. Obviously that's north. Typically what I always say is be on the southern side of tall trees, right? Well, guess what? Behind us to the south is trees. So we can't get on the southern side of trees in this particular lot because the back of the space is literally full of trees. We did our best to get as far from the trees as possible. The first idea was just start with 2 raised beds, but I was just like, go big or go home. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to have a smaller garden than I had in Illinois. I decided to just take up the entire length of this part of the yard, knowing that the back gardens are going to get less sun than the front, and you'll see what I mean as we go through. What I wanted to do is use the steel beds that we have in the gardenary shop. We found this great supplier earlier this year, and I wanted to test out the beds myself and also get to showcase and show you how these beds work, how things grow in them, and just really be like a test case for the beds. So I have a wide variety of the different bed sizes here, so it'll be fun to show you what those look like. So I just added these 2 beds. These are the planters. These aren't full yet. They don't have any soil or plants. This was kind of an afterthought, honestly, because I accidentally made this initial space, the entry space into the kitchen garden, too long. And I hate seeing all that extra gravel. So I just added these 2 beds. I'm thinking I'll plant some kind of perennial, like maybe berries in here, or asparagus or rhubarb, or something cool that's just going to be in the garden full time. Next, we have 2 of the largest beds. These are 4x8s. I think they're like 16 inches tall, something like that. These are in the gardenary shop. They're a kit, and they go together pretty simply. I put them together with my kids. My dad was actually orchestrating the whole thing, and I'm sure my kids really love that. So these beds right now have a variety of things. So I have to tell you, one of the bad parts about this setup is the soil that I got was not great. And I put these beds in July, and really, like a lot of my warm season plants, they failed. And I think a lot of that was because the soil mix just wasn't it. So I've been working on it. I've added a lot of compost. I've added earthworm castings. I've added nutrients, all kinds of stuff to try to get the soil better. And I think we're getting there, but I kind of lost a couple of months, and that was a big bummer. So I'll show you what's planted inside these beds right now, which is gonna seem like kind of a hodgepodge, because it is. We have pepper plants. I bought these on clearance, and I cut off the tops of them. You can see how I cut this right here. I cut off the tops, and now they're starting to regrow. Whether I'll get fruit from them before it's too cold, I don't know. I'm gonna go on this side of the bed so that I don't shadow everything. I also have this squash, so I planted these from seed, and you can see how some of these are not, they didn't get pollinated, but some of them, I've actually picked a couple of squash off these plants. So they're doing okay. They've got powdery mildew, and we're starting to have first frost. So these are probably gonna go pretty soon. That's one of my like very initial seeds I put in the ground. So you can see the results of that. I have a squirrel, I think, that's currently digging into my garden. I thought it was gonna be a deer or a rabbit because we're in a spot with tons of wildlife, but this is what he or she is currently leaving me every day, is like completely decimated Swiss chard plants, which is, you know, fun. This is another one of those pepper plants I tried to rescue. It looks pretty terrible. Here's one of those squirrel. What actually brought the squirrel to my yard, just FYI, if you have a squirrel issue, is these pansies. Ever since I planted these pansies, the squirrel showed up and just started literally decimating them, and even pulling them up out of the garden. Like, that's how desperate she is to consume every part of the pansy. We've got some lavender in here, some cabbage I just put in, some dill. I've had a lot of picks from this. I have an eggplant, and it's looking not bad, but I have no fruit from it so far. So I'm actually thinking about overwintering it and bringing it indoors. We'll see. More pepper plants that I planted, cut off, and I've just been trying to revive. I think I got all these for like 50 cents a piece or something like that. So I thought, hey, Why not try it? All these pepper plants are the same. They're like rescue peppers. That's what we're gonna call them. I have some cucumbers trying to climb up the trellis. These again were a little too late. We've started to have temperatures like dip into cold right now, a couple like light frosts. So that's pretty much enough. You can tell like zucchini, squash, cucumbers, those plants do not like frost. Back here, a lot of more of the same. Okay, it looks like the squirrel also really likes the celosia. She tried to dig this up last night. I don't know why. I am aware that I'm most likely gonna need some kind of caging, fencing, something. We have wild turkeys, armadillos, deer, rabbits, squirrels. It's like Bambi's hideout back here. So I am aware and prepared, but I'm like trying to put it off as long as I can. The other bed over here, I probably should have shown you that one because it's a little bit prettier, but it's got Napa cabbage and kale in here, more peppers, and then these are our obelisk trellises that are also in the gardenary shop. That's the front two beds. And I connected these with these little stepping stones. Found these stepping stones at Lowe's. I think so, yeah. So they're 2x1 and I love them. It kind of breaks up all the brown. I ended up with kind of a pretty brown kitchen garden. It wasn't necessarily a plant. Now this is the middle section. My yard is kind of it is at a slope, not kind of. My first time to ever create a kitchen garden on a slope. That's not for clients. So in Houston, everything is flat. Chicago was pretty flat. We did add a little bit. We did level it out a little bit. Here is like definitely heading further and further down as you go to the back of the yard. And this is actually the flattest part of our entire backyard. So what I tried to do is use this edging to break up the garden space. We use the edging to like tier the garden down. So the highest level is up here for this first section. This follows the second section, and then we use the edging again to bring it into the third section. This is the edging we're now carrying in the shop too. Like I said, I'm trying to test out everything that we have in the shop. This is a great steel edge. It's like 5 inches tall. And so it's holding up really well to keep the levels tiered in the kitchen garden. So these are our smallest beds. This is I think it's 40 inches by 40 inches. I'll have to double check. These are a perfect beginner garden. I wanted to get these just to be able to showcase how much you can grow in a small bed. And this one's a great example. I have all these daikon radishes. I pulled this one up yesterday, but I put it back in because I really wanted to show you. Okay, so are you ready? Look at how epic this daikon radish is. I mean, so great, right? This really shows, you know, the value of a raised bed because literally it is the length is literally the depth of the bed. And so it really showcases how a deep raised bed gives you so much value in terms of, you know, growability and being able to grow root crops and crops that have bigger root systems. So I went back and forth whether to put these beds straight or to turn them into the diamond shape. I was playing around with shapes on a piece of paper and I came up with the idea to turn these and make them a diamond. The reason why I wanted to do that is to make the garden feel a little bit more like a room, you know, like that you had to enter in. As I've studied garden design, I've found that like part of the concept of a great garden design is where there's things you want to go in and look around to actually see all the details. Like a great garden doesn't show you everything at once. So that was part of my inspiration to turn these beds on the diamond. Also, it was very practical because over here, it may be covered up, but there's like a little utility box. So if I turned these beds straight, I would end up covering the utility box. So if you have a space in your own garden or your landscape where you've got like irrigation or landscape or even like a sewage line or something, just play around with the, sorry, I thought there was a butterfly right there. Play around with the layout and just, you know, line it up so it's convenient for you. Okay, my favorite new addition to the garden is this little bird bath. Just came this weekend actually. And this was my idea to put here in the center. I've always wanted to have a bird bath in the garden to have more birds. So birds are like so good for pest control and just for the full ecosystem of the kitchen garden. And so this is her and I love her. I just put this right in the center. It is like solid concrete. It's so heavy, but I love it. All right, here in the back we have basically a mirror of the front two beds. So this really starts to flatten out this back part of the garden. This is also the shadiest part of the garden. So you can see that tree really blocks the sun on these beds. So this is going to be primarily a green part of the garden. However, it also happens to be the spot that the squirrels and maybe some other wildlife seem to love the most. And so I'm going to probably be covering these with net entirely to keep them out. I think that's the only way I'm going to be able to survive back here. So far, what I found that they're not interested in is this parsley. The parsley has survived, but most of my other greens have gotten eaten down. And then this is my broccoli I just put in. I'm not expecting it to do great because broccoli needs a lot of sunlight. and I don't have a ton back here. I have considered trimming these trees a little bit to try to get more winter sun, so we'll see what happens. I added the stepping stones back here, but I didn't put them in the center because I just don't know how to do that in a design that wouldn't feel really weird. This bed right here was fully planted with beets, and I think it was a squirrel, but you can see they're all gone. So that's really sad. Part of the reason why some of these beds are a little bit more empty is I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna combat the wildlife situation. As I set up my garden, I had this idea to add a pollinator garden around the whole space. So that's what I did here. Let me see where I can show you the best. So what I did is just about 2 or 3 feet outside of the kitchen garden space, I literally took the cardboard boxes that came with my raised beds and I just laid them down to do like a lasagna style garden. So we put down the cardboard, then we covered it with soil. I just added this pine straw mulch. I probably will switch to just, oh, there's the onion hiding in there. That's a little experiment of mine. I probably will switch just to normal mulch, like hardwood mulch. But I had this thought that I would use pine straw, but I'm not loving the way it looks. Anyway, I went to a local nursery and I bought tons of native plants and pollinator friendly plants. I bought a lot of grasses like this pink muley. I also added like extra herbs in here, like this is germander. Here's a marigold. I just threw some seeds in here. There's bee balm. I planted some zinnia seeds as well. And I just covered this area. The idea is to make this like a butterfly and bee haven. So the temperatures have dropped a little bit and I haven't seen as many pollinators around. But in the first few weeks and months after I put these plants in, this place just started buzzing with life. It was so awesome. So that is basically my dream garden. And hopefully you can see that it's not all dreamy. Like there's been a lot of fails and a lot of times that things haven't done well. Like for the first few months actually, things were growing pretty poorly in this garden. So hopefully it's a good sign to you that you know you can have your dream garden, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like instantaneous where you're just picking food every single minute from the garden every day. It's been a process, but the thing I've learned over the years from all the kitchen gardens I've had before and all those of my clients and students is that setup really matters. So if you get the setup right, then you can always plant again. You can always fix the soil. You can always work around failures. But if you have the setup right, then you're pretty much good to go. Then it's just experimenting and trying again. So welcome to my dream garden. I can't wait to teach you all kinds of things and bring you along as I grow in this space for many seasons and years to come. And I hope that you will follow along with me. So if you haven't subscribed to the Gardenary channel yet, please do so. And you can hit that little bell thing so that you get a notification every time I bring you a new lesson from my dream garden in the weeks and seasons ahead. Thanks for watching.